It's the year 2022. Industrialization has led to overcrowding, pollution, and global warming. 40 million people live in New York City. Housing is dilapidated. Homeless people fill the streets. Those few people with jobs are only barely scraping by, and food and working technology are scarce, with most of the population surviving on rations produced by the Soylent Corporation. Their latest product is Soylent Green, a green wafer advertised to contain high energy plankton from the ocean. However, a man named Frank Thorne comes across a set of oceanographers' reports that shows that the oceans are no longer producing the plankton that the government claims is being used to make Soylent Green. He discovers the only possible source of the product is human remains. Soylent Green is people. All today on a very special You Tried Dat. You Tried Dat. We're back. I'm Nick Novak with my pal Chad Hancock
Howdy.
and GMAB Nick Geiger.
Yo, G-Mab in the house.
What's up, G-Mab?
So we are going to have a special episode because we had some technical difficulties while doing some past reviews. And so we'll be talking about some products that we did try in addition to trying a couple of new ones. What do you think of that, GMAB?
I think the G-Mab abides by that. I think that's a great idea. Guys, what do you think was the best part of the Lost episode? What things that we did do you think that people are really going to miss out on?
Well, certainly not this. You're not missing anything with this GMAB crap. This is just something that was a typo 15 minutes before the episode in the text.
Yep.
We did have a nice 30 minutes of jokes about having sex with a guy named Al Fresco. So I think that's something maybe people aren't going to miss.
So just marinate on what was and what could have been.
Today, one thing that we did speak a little bit to, and we want to get into a little more, is a summer camp that was attended by Chad. So Chad, why don't you kind of start at the beginning and tell us a little about this camp?
Sure. So the background is that as a kid, I was a very, very picky eater. And one of the reasons that I was a picky eater was because I just had like really messed up teeth. And I won't go into all the braces and everything I had here now. We could do that another time. But because of that, I pretty much just had a diet of mac and cheese, hot dogs, and, peanut butter and honey sandwiches. That was pretty much what I grew up on. So one year I went to this summer camp for 3 weeks, and there was a lot of really weird stuff at the summer camp, and it was kind of like sort of a hippie-ish sort of summer camp where it was on a farm, and they had this philosophy where everything that they wanted, or almost everything that they wanted the kids to eat, was like grown on the farm. It was all, like organic. So that basically meant they didn't have any snacks, like no candy, chips, that sort of stuff. And it was a lot of veggies, and I did not eat, I barely ate any vegetables back then.
How old were you?
This was, I want to say 6th grade. So how old is someone in 6th grade? I don't know. 12, 13?
Back up one tiny second. I'm not trying to interrupt. Did you say you ate frequent peanut butter and honey sandwiches?
Yeah, I love peanut butter and honey. I still eat them to this day.
Really?
I'll also do peanut butter and jam or jelly, but back then I didn't really do jam or jelly. I just did peanut butter and honey.
Oh, okay. But
You never tried it?
No, I don't like honey that much, but I've never heard of that. Interesting. Anyway.
Bro, you need to try dat.
Look, the GMAB don't do honey.
So basically, I was refusing to eat at almost every meal because it was always food that I didn't really want to eat, like lots of vegetables, lots of tomatoes. Even when they had spaghetti, it was just douched in tomato sauce, which I didn't want to have anything to do with. So sort of starving myself for a couple days and had not eaten very much. I was basically like the modern day Gandhi. So
right.
Starving myself because I didn't want to eat vegetables, which is exactly what got me.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So then about maybe 4 days in or something like that, they were having a big bonfire cookout kind of thing where they had, they'd set up a fire, and they announced that they were going to have hot dogs, and we were all going to get to roast hot dogs over the fire. And I was so excited because I was like, oh, finally, like food that I actually want to eat.
One of the 3 things that you mentioned you eat.
Right. When they said they were going to have a fire, I was like, oh boy, I hope we roast peanut butter and honey sandwiches. But then when they said hot dogs, I was like, score.
Right. Much more logical, too.
So, but then they said the caveat, which was before you're allowed to eat the hot dog, first you have to eat 3 raw vegetables, a carrot, a zucchini, and a celery.
Did before they even finish listing them, did you just throw yourself onto the fire?
Right.
That's a very odd test, I gotta be honest. You're at camp, they're like, all right, we're gonna have all these delicious hot dogs, but eat these 3 random vegetables.
I think it was just like, we need to have some nutrition, because if you're going to eat all these like random pig anus ground together and stuff, then, you should have some greens with it or whatever.
2 out of 3 of those vegetables are the most common
Right.
kids eating they make them in packages where kids can dip them into ranch dressing and stuff.
But back then I didn't like any of them. Like now I actually really like carrots, and celery's not bad if it's got enough ranch dressing on it. Zucchini I still eat.
What about random pig anus? Are you still into that?
Oh, so into that. I will toss that pig salad. I mean, eat a hot dog. Anyways.
That's called eating a hot dog al fresco, right?
So they handed out the vegetables, and I kept saying, look, can I please just have the hot dog? They said no, and I was like, let me eat the hot dog first, then I'll eat the vegetables. And they're like, no, you have to eat the vegetables first. And I said, look, if I eat these vegetables, I'm going to throw up. I promise you. Like, let me have the hot dog. And they said, no, you have to eat the vegetables. So I took 1 bite of the zucchini, and I just started vomiting everywhere. Like all over the campsite.
This is you running through the campsite, just vomiting on everything you saw.
Just shooting it out like a projectile, trying to like aim for people like that.
Running into cabins, vomiting, and then leaving.
To the point where I vomited so badly that I actually became exhausted and very dehydrated, and I had to spend the whole next day in their little infirmary or whatever that they had, their makeshift infirmary inside the house, just drinking soup. And I never got the hot dog. Is the biggest crime of this whole thing.
Oh shit, you never got the hot dog. You think they're gonna give you the hot dog after that?
You don't think they would feel bad for this little kid that's puking everywhere? Give him a hot dog.
They weren't to reach for the hot dog buns and they were soaked in puke. Oh, well.
I guarantee you, as someone who's worked with children plenty, there was no feeling bad for you. It was just, this little asshole can't eat a carrot. Should we give him the hot dog? Don't give him the damn hot dog.
Oh, you want a hot dog? And they just take 8 of them, stuff them in your mouth, and hold you down and smother you with them. Piece of shit.
It's like when you catch your kid trying cigarettes, and then you make them smoke the whole pack. You're gonna eat 500 pig anuses now.
You like that?
That whole camp was just, there was a lot of weird experiences at that camp. A couple other quick things. One was, so obviously after that incident, I wasn't the most popular kid at the camp.
Oh yeah? Hey,
what about before the incident? The kid who's negotiating for his life to not eat these. Please, I'll do anything.
Excuse me, sir. I won't eat that zucchini. It turns into a puke hose. Oh, I want to hang out with that guy.
I definitely remember, especially at the beginning when I was refusing to eat anything, me just sitting at the lunch table by myself with a plate of food and just not touching it. And just, everybody else just thought I was just the littlest shit.
Was this a nature camp or a science camp or just
So it was a camp run by Quakers.
Oh.
Which that'll come into play in a little bit. Yeah, so a lot of people wouldn't really talk to me. I didn't really have any friends at this camp, and it was 3 weeks that I was there. So I needed to do something to amuse myself. So they had a tetherball pole, and so I thought I would play a little tetherball, but I couldn't get anybody to play tetherball with me. So I just imagined that I was both like I came up with this whole tournament bracket with like 8 or something fake like characters. Like I remember one of them was called like Dr. Payne.
I'm just picturing like some ESPN televised tetherball game. Here comes Dr. Payne. The guy walks up and effeminately taps the tetherball 6 times.
One of the guys was definitely Mario. Don't try to pretend it wasn't.
It's me playing tetherball.
I'm gonna win because there's only one guy here.
So I was just playing tetherball against myself. I try to imagine now, like looking back on it, that just must have been the saddest sight, like walking out and seeing some kid like whack a tetherball and then like intentionally miss it because he wanted Dr. Payne to win or whatever.
Wait, you had Dr. Payne win this tournament?
I think he lost in the finals to Chad.
Dr. Payne versus Chad. Just Chad, guys.
I don't even know how to take this story.
Oh my god.
It's still sad.
Sad.
It's sad and pathetic. It's so strange.
You know, one of those camp counselors too was still resentful of you and just was like fantasizing about walking up and just belting that tetherball straight into your face.
Even the counselors themselves actually were pretty weird. Like I remember there was 2 counselors in our cabin. Our cabin had like maybe 10 kids or something like that. And one of them was like this late teens kid, like maybe 17, 18. And on one of the first nights, he was reading to us like a bedtime story. He's like, "Oh, I'll read you a bedtime story." And he pulls out one of the Dark Tower books by Stephen King. I've never read the series, but I remember vividly, like, it was like the opening chapter and the guy's like the main character's on a beach and he comes across this crab creature that's like, ends up like pinching all of his fingers off, like one by one or something like that. And he's reading it to a bunch of little kids, like right before we're supposed to go to sleep. And like, it was like all these kids are going to have nightmares. That guy, like a couple days later, he was running down a hill and he tripped on a branch and like fell and like broke his leg and had to leave the camp.
What?
I have a feeling this camp counselor played a lot of tetherball by himself.
I'm picturing this camp counselor reading the book and not even looking at the page. It says the book open. He's staring at you, and he has naming the main character Chad and talking about how a crab's cutting off all the characters' fingers.
he pulls out like a pair of scissors and just like slowly opens and closes them. Shing, shing.
And that's when the crab, whose name was Dr. Payne, successfully removed all of Chad's fingers because Chad would need his fucking zucchini.
The other thing about that camp, I was also trying to amuse myself, and they had different activities. So I was like, "Oh, I'll try woodworking." So I went into the woodworking shop, and like over the course of the 3 weeks, I was like slowly like learning how to woodwork and like making something. I mentioned earlier that this was like a Quaker camp, which is, you know, for those who don't know, Quakers are very like nonviolent and like pacifist. So I was making this thing that they thought was a cross, and it looked exactly like a cross. But then at the end of cutting it, the long part of the cross, I cut it into a point and then painted it silver with like a black hilt. So the whole time I had actually been making a sword. And I remember the lady was like, had this very horrified look on her face as she came to the realization of what I was actually doing with my time in the wood shop.
And then late at night, the lightning struck and the lady looked up and you swung the door open and said, "I'm Dr. Payne."
I'm holding the sword like high atop my head.
Start striking her with it and then vomiting all over her. Blah! There's more.
Every time I swing the sword, like a magic beam of vomit just flies out of it. So finally my mom comes and picks me up from this thing, and I'm so relieved. Like, it's just, this is like this 3 weeks of like hell,
Yeah,
but like
you're relieved. The other people...
So that poor counselor you pushed down the hill
fell and broke his leg.
Tripped on a sword in the woods.
Tripped on a pointy cross.
that's what he got for messing with Dr. Payne.
He slipped in a giant puddle of vomit.
So my mom picks me up and she's driving me back, and I've barely eaten anything for 3 weeks. And she's like, what do you want to eat? And I'm like, go to this gas station. I need to get some candy. So I go in and I get this bag of M&Ms, and I mouth that thing so fast. Like I basically pour the bag like directly down my throat, like I was chugging a soda or something. And so like 5 miles down the road, all of a sudden my stomach feels really bad. I'm like, Mom, pull over. And I like get out of the car and just vomit rainbows all over the side of the road. It's like my stomach was not ready for all that sugar so quickly.
Man, you were just kind of a walking disaster, weren't you?
Did you go back to that camp ever again? Or
No, I never went back to that one. But
They closed down.
one other camp story real quick. This is the previous year. I was at a different camp.
Can't imagine why they asked you not to come back. Sound like such a model camp participant.
So the previous year, I went to this camp. It was called the Amish Farm, and it was in Amish country in Ohio. And again, it was like a farm that you would go to. And I actually went to that one for like 3 or 4 years. This was the last year I was there. And then I sort of aged out, which is why like they only took kids up to a certain age. That's why I went to the Quaker camp the next year. I actually really liked the Amish farm. Like that place was really great. And all the stuff they had was like a lot of fun and the food was great. But they would do a thing every day in the morning where they had a big barn. And the barn had like hay all over the ground. And then the barn also had these rafters that it was like really fun to climb up into. So I always used to climb up into the rafters, and they would have like a meeting every morning in the barn where they would just be like, okay, here's the different activities you can do today. Like who wants to do which activities, and just sort of go over that stuff. I remember one morning I climbed up into the rafters and I was like the only person up there, and everybody else was just on the ground sitting in the hay, and they were going over the things. And it was kind of boring. So like my imagination started like running wild.
So, where the hell is this going?
So I had this fantasy that like the barn door burst open and we got attacked by like a rabid raccoon, and the raccoon just started like jumping on people and like trying to attack them. So I'm sitting up there in the rafters and I'm able to save them because I have my trusty imaginary Uzi. So I just start like these shooting effects, like without the sound, but just like making the motions as if I'm shooting an Uzi, and the raccoon is trying to dodge. So it's like jumping from person to person, and I'm just shooting it all around this thing. So if you don't know that there's this rabid raccoon attacking, it literally looks like I'm just shooting a gun at everyone in the barn. Like I'm just like murdering them all like some kind of crazy person. And so that was that. And then like nobody said anything. I didn't even think anybody noticed. So later that night,
Indeed.
one of the guys comes out, like who runs the camp, and he like kind of pulls me aside and he's like, Chad, can I talk to you for a second? I just wanted to make sure everything's okay, you know, like at home. And I'm like, yeah, it's great. Why? And he's like, well, it seemed like you were taking out your aggression on everyone today. And I was like, no, you don't understand. There was this rabid raccoon attacking everyone, and I was the only one that could shoot it. And like, I'm trying to explain this whole thing to him. And he's just kind of like, okay.
Get him out of the camp. Tell him we aged out.
Right. Like I tried to imagine like the things from his point of view. He just sees this kid up in the rafters, like shooting everybody.
There's no way to tell that story without you looking like a lunatic.
Yeah.
That really is bizarre.
I like how you go, you don't understand. There was a rabid raccoon. Not I was imagining one. There really was one. You just couldn't see him.
I was one of the more pathetic children.
It's odd that you're imagining the raccoon jumping around, but you can't just also imagine yourself shooting, right?
Yeah, you imagined yourself with horrible aim.
But I mean, in my imagination, there weren't any civilian casualties, but of course in real life, there probably would have been many.
Yep.
You truly are Dr. Payne.
And you guys are friends with me.
I remember first grade, the guidance counselor talked to my mom because I kept coloring pictures that were all blue and purple and brown and stuff. And so my mom asked me if everything was okay and if I was depressed and stuff. It was like, I didn't know. I'm like, yeah, I'm fine. And then they picked me up at the end of the year and we were picking up all my school supplies. she looked in the crayon box, and those were the only crayons I had. And she asked the first grade teachers, like, "Yeah, I told him he keeps carrying his crayon box upside down. They all fall out in the hallway." So it was just a matter of that's the only crayons I had left. It had nothing to do with my depression. I was just a dipshit.
Did you eat the rest of them?
I did not eat any of them or hurl them at raccoons or anything like that. I told them, like, "Mom, no, I'm not depressed. There's these crazy rabid rabbits in the hallway. You didn't see them? I was hurling them at them."
You took the rest of the crayons and tied them all to a rope so that you could play crayon tetherball against yourself.
Yeah. How do you? Can I ask? I've never played tetherball. What is the point? I know you hit the ball and it's supposed to spin around the pole, but like, what's to what
You need
point?
to wrap
to what
it all
objective?
the way up,
Okay.
going your direction.
And if it wraps all the way up, you get a point.
Yeah, the scoring, I don't know.
And the other person has to knock the ball back at you so it doesn't wrap all the way up.
Right, and they have to wrap it their direction. Right.
Isn't that pretty easy? That sounds like
think-
a dumb game.
I guess so. I don't know. I mean, the games against myself were very competitive.
Yeah. I mean, I'm assuming you're not playing Dr. Payne or the world tetherball champion, Chad. I think it would be pretty simple. But
I wonder if did Rabid Raccoon ever make it into that tournament? At what age does a Rabid Raccoon excuse stop working for you?
Probably 5 years before I used it.
we had a friend that we all went camping one time in college, Novak and I and a couple of other friends. And we spent the night and we were sleeping in these tents and we could hear a raccoon like going through our food. We saw it that day. It was like going into our freezer and it ran away. And then we could hear something going through our food. And our one friend, Sean, claimed that he not only saw the raccoon through the tent, but that it charged our tent, quote unquote, like a rhino, which that did not happen. And that it was trying to open the zipper with its paws, which also did not happen. It was a highly intellectual raccoon, the opposite of your rabid raccoon. This one was a really deep thinker and planner.
If only we had had a 12-year-old with an Uzi.
Then we'd all also be dead because he was continually spraying us with bullets.
All right, so let's transition over to some ratings now. We recently ate a bunch of gummy snacks, and we're going to give you kind of the rundown of what we did because at this point in our lives, we don't eat snacks just to eat them. We only eat them to rate them.
That's right. The only time I eat anything that's a snack is when we're recording this podcast.
Yep.
I do not just buy Snickers on the reg.
So we tried 3 different ones. The first of the 3 that we tried was the Lifesavers Gummies Exotic Flavors of the World. And we'll each just kind of go through and give our rating so that if anyone was wanting to try them or was curious would know. I really love those gummies. I thought they were a good consistency. They're on the softer side for gummies. They were all sort of the tropical flavors. I don't remember what they were. It's like dragon fruit and stuff like that. So just type of flavors I liked. And I actually gave those a love dat.
I thought they were very good, actually. I was pleasantly surprised. They had a good soft consistency. Some of the flavors I liked better than others. Like I really liked the lemon flavor and the mandarin orange flavor. The dragon fruit was okay. But ultimately, I thought they were very tasty. I actually polished off the rest of the bag last night. So I gave them a like that.
Yeah, same here. I like a softer gummy. These aren't like the hard gummy bear style gummies. These are really nice and squishy. I agree with Chad that some of the fruit flavors kind of, and then maybe it's just a function of eating a bunch of them at one time, but some of the flavors kind of blended together for me. But they were all really good, all different kind of tropical flavors. So I gave it a solid like that.
After that, we tried the Now and Later jelly beans, the sister candy of those hard Now and Later candies that you probably remember eating growing up. These are kind of more of a standard jelly bean. They were smaller, a little bigger than a Jelly Belly, but smaller than the regular Jelly Bird Egg jelly beans. They had some regular flavors, cherry and grape and that sort of thing, but then they also had a banana that was kind of strange. I, for these, just gave it an indifferent to that because I felt they really didn't bring anything new to the jelly bean game and were just sort of average jelly beans. What'd you think, Geiger?
If I recall correctly, I gave it a dislike that. They were not good. Like one of them had a really weird taste. I couldn't place it. It was supposed to be like apple or something, and it tasted putrid. I didn't like it at all. And a really bad aftertaste. And I'm also not a huge fan of gummy beans. Jelly beans. I'm not I'm not a fan of speaking. But so yeah, I think I gave it a dislike that.
So I actually came out hot. I gave it a hate dat, which I'm going to walk back now because when I was thinking about it later, I was like, this is not at the same level as many of the other things that I have hated.
See, here we go. No integrity. No podcast integrity.
Hey, I could have just said I gave it a dislike dat and you probably wouldn't have remembered. So
That's probably true.
So I'm actually a better man than you. Anyways. Yeah, these were not good. Some of the flavors were downright disgusting. I remember the banana was particularly gross as well, but they weren't all together horrible. So yeah, I give them a dislike dat also.
All right, and finally we had the Muddy Bears. So if you have never seen or heard of a Muddy Bear, you should type Muddy Bears into Google and just get the comical picture of a bear smiling and looking up and just a river of shit pouring onto his head. So they basically were just small gummy bears, all covered in chocolate, really small sized. And there was only a few flavors, I think pineapple, apple, and something else. But I gave these a dislike dat. I thought the chocolate was okay, but it just tasted like you couldn't taste the bear very much. So it kind of ended up tasting like a strangely chewy chocolate. So I ended up with a dislike. Chad, what'd you think?
These things were dog shit. They're so bad. The best part about them was the picture on the box, and then it was all downhill from there. Yeah, there was just like the chocolate was bad. The gummy on the inside was like too hard and kind of not a good flavor. So yeah, these were a huge loser for me. I gave them a hate dat.
I'm trying to remember if I gave it. It was definitely a dislike. Well, a dislike or an indifferent. I think I had a dislike because basically echoing what you guys said, they were hard. I don't like the hard gummy style. Also, I think Novak mentioned they were so covered in chocolate that you couldn't even taste whatever. Like I think we were talking about how I don't know why they gave them different flavors because all you could taste was chocolate, and the chocolate wasn't that good. So hilarious defecation covered bear image aside. To be clear, it's chocolate. It's not shit being dumped on their heads.
Don't know that. The top of it is obscure.
Well, it could be mud too. There are muddy bears. That's what they're called. I give it
mud.
I give it a dislike that.
And so the clear winner of those was the Lifesavers Gummies Exotic Flavors of the World. So we all actually did give that really good ratings. So that would be our recommendation of the gummies. Before we get into trying a couple things here, Geiger, we talked in one episode about your grandmother burning hair. What was that? I just put a note that we talked about it, but I don't remember what it was.
So my grandmother thought there was a rabid raccoon in her hair. She was trying to smoke it out. No, so my sister really does not like, did not like, and I think is not thrilled with today, ground beef. Something about the texture or something, she just really grossed her out. She eats meat. She just doesn't love ground beef. So it was really bad when we were kids. Like she would just refuse to eat it to the point where my mom would have to make like a hot dog also, and then just like bribe her into eating some ground beef so she could have a hot dog. But my grandmother didn't do that. She would just make dinner, and if you didn't like it, tough, and you just sat there until it was done. So she would say, "You're sitting at this table until you finish your food." And there would be times when my other sister Becky and I would be done. We're off like playing. In fact, we were like playing cards with my grandmother at the dinner table while my sister just stared at a plate of meatloaf. She one time, I remember, and I don't know why it stuck up my memory, but she lit a candle and said to my sister Jenny, "Look, you need to finish the meatloaf by the time this candle is done." And then like I distinctly remember her plucking a hair out of her head and just lighting it on fire. And I think it was just like to show us how fast hair burned. I don't think it was a threat. It wasn't. I mean,
is she a scientist?
Here's my hypothesis: hair is flammable.
Once the candle burns, then your head burns.
Right. I think, and she was staring into my sister's eyes and said, "Eat the fucking meatloaf." And she like ripped a giant clump of hair out and just tossed it in the flames.
Was your grandma the evil supervillain Dr. Payne?
Yeah. Twist ending. My grandmother is Dr. Payne herself. And then she started going, "Where's that fucking kid? I got to go win a tetherball tournament." She just kept muttering as she burned all her hair. She just kept muttering under her breath, "I'll get you next time, Chad." Uh, no, but yeah, I don't know why she. And again, I'm probably making a bigger deal out of it than I like. She probably just did it once and was like, "Oh, look, it burns fast." But like, it stuck out in my memory of like, why is she doing?
I'm
this?
confused about if was your sister's hair or her hair.
No, it was her own hair.
Oh, okay.
Oh, you don't eat meatloaf, huh? Hope you don't like your hair. And just started lighting it on fire. And I honestly think, like, when my sisters listen to this podcast, I will be curious to see if they even remember what the fuck I'm talking about. It might have just been one of those random things that I remembered, but it was like 1 or 2 hairs, and she would just stick them in the candle. And my sister Becky and I were just staring at it, like watching it burn.
Your one sister is bald, so that could be.
My one sister no longer has hair. She had a lot of like mysterious burn marks that the police couldn't quite figure out what happened. Also, she got a lot of bed sores and things like that, and her legs atrophied because she never ate the meatloaf. So she's still sitting at my grandfather's kitchen table.
She's
to this
still there
day.
with a rotting meatloaf in front of her.
Rotting meatloaf. All her hair is falling out and got burned. No teeth left. She's just like covered. There's like rivers of shit just under her chair because she.
Okay, that was the too much fight.
There was a bear underneath it getting all muddy. So yeah, I don't. Grandma, if you're listening, who am I kidding? You don't know how to use a computer. I don't remember why I recall you plucking your own hair and burning it in front of us, but you did, and I have forgotten. 30 years later.
I never. My dad never burned my hair, but I did have to sit at the table till I finished. And don't totally remember, but my parents regularly tell the story of me falling asleep face first in my dinner because I wouldn't eat it all. So
no, do you do that with your kids now? Like I am a big stickler on you have to try everything, and I will make them eat some of. I'm like, we're not shorter cooks. You're gonna eat at least most of this, but we're not making you a separate meal or anything like that.
Correct. Yeah, we don't make them do anything different, and you have to try it, not to eat it all. My kids are probably better than I was as a kid with that sort of thing. And then I always say, "You tried that." That chompy noise in the intro is actually my daughter. So we're going to be trying a couple of things today, just as a bonus for you, instead of just listening to our ratings. Let's try the little piece of chocolate first. We're going to try a Frey chocolate. Frey is the brand, and it is the Chocobloc Dark. I don't know if this is like a regional type of candy, but I don't see Frey around here, but I also don't usually browse the like finer chocolate sections.
That's a really interesting shape. If you take it out, it's like very thin rivets on it.
This is dark chocolate with honey almond nougat. So I think when I first saw it,
it's crunchy on the inside.
Yeah, when I first saw it, I think there's almonds in it. I thought it was going to be just a piece of dark chocolate.
It's very dark chocolatey.
Yes, for sure.
Well, you guys don't like dark chocolate, right?
I don't generally like dark chocolate. It's okay in certain cases. I do really like almonds in my chocolate. I think that's my top nut to have chocolate on.
Yeah, I'm allergic, so.
Dig in.
I mean, I'm eating it, so it's fine. It's not like that much almond. It's very like tiny little specks of like almost like finely ground up.
Yeah, it's not like an almond in a Hershey's almond. It's like you said, more ground up. You can see in a cross section a bunch of different little pieces of it. Geiger, you can start us off. What do you think of the Frey Chocobloc Dark?
I really like dark chocolate. I think the chocolate flavor is good. I mean, it sounds dumb, but it's not as good to me as like a Hershey's Special Dark, which is I think even more bitter than normal dark chocolate. I don't know. You guys probably disagree. It doesn't really taste that dark to me. It almost is like a slightly dark milk chocolate. And I don't love the almonds. I just don't like almonds in general. So indifferent. It's a suitable piece of chocolate candy, but I'm not going to go on my way to go get it again. I'd say indifferent to that.
Chad?
Yeah, I'm also going to go indifferent to that. I actually didn't expect to like it because of the dark chocolate and because I'm not too excited usually about almonds or other kinds of non-peanut nuts in my chocolate. But this was actually okay. I thought the flavor was pretty good and the size is not bad. I'm going to go indifferent to that.
All right. Knock, knock.
Uh-oh.
No answer. Knock. I'll just leave this pamphlet here and walk away. So I'm giving it a third indifferent. We're getting a lazy electioneer here. I think the chocolate is okay. I don't love dark chocolate, but this dark chocolate is average. And I do like the almonds. They're bringing it up a bit for me. So it's just going to fall right in the middle. 3 indifferent to that. So aren't you glad that we rated that?
Here's a little bonus content for you where we just all kind of eat some chocolate and shrug our shoulders.
You have exactly as much information on whether or not you should buy this chocolate as before we tried it.
You are welcome. It's a great service we provide to everyone.
Aren't you glad you stuck around for 40 minutes of my camp nightmares in order for the...
We're also going to try a second product, and it's a drink that we'd also discussed in a previous podcast. Chad's going to take us through and kind of give us a little background on this.
Yeah, so on the Lost Gummy episode, we did a You Drank Dat segment where we tasted Soylent. Soylent is something that we had talked about on one of our fairly early episodes. I'll just give you a quick background on Soylent because this is kind of like a fascinating thing to me. Now, you guys had never heard of this before I had mentioned it, right?
Correct.
But I know about it because I'm out here in San Francisco and it started here in the Bay Area. So it's like there's this tech bro guy. His name's Rob Reinhart, and he does all these like sort of very crackpot things, of which Soylent is the first one. So basically, he said he calculated that he spent about 2 hours a day making food and eating food and then like cleaning up after. And I guess that was like way too much time because that was time that I guess he couldn't spend coding or whatever the fuck. So what he did was he ordered a whole bunch of different chemicals that he had read, like he'd read all these nutrition websites and FDA websites, and then combined the chemicals to try to make exactly the amount of nutrition and calories that an average human person is supposed to consume in like a given day. He just took all these chemicals and stuck them in a blender with like some water and then just like mixed it around to make this slush and then started drinking that. And he drank nothing but that for like a month. He said that he got it down to only like 5 minutes a day to like make the stuff and then drink it over the course of the day. So I guess that was all that much extra time that he could, I don't know, beat off to World of Warcraft.
As one does.
So he started this company to start selling this to other people, like quit his job and started this. At first, it was just the powder that they sold. And then eventually they made like a bar that you could get. And then now they have these like pre-mixed refrigerated drinks in like a 20-ounce bottle or whatever that you can get at like 7-Eleven. Last time we tried the chocolate flavor, but this time we're going to try the vanilla. Just real quick, some of the other crazy things about this guy. He did this weird thing where he bought a bunch, like a hilltop in the middle of LA, and he decided that he wanted to try to do like sort of some sustainable living. He bought this hilltop that has no like water or power hookups, and he bought a freight shipping container, like for a train or a boat or whatever, and just dumped it on top of the hilltop and put like some solar panels on it and stuff like that, and like turned it into a house and started living there. And like, I guess a bunch of the neighbors like complain because apparently he hosts like these raves all the time with like, there's all these parties and like, yeah, and like just people hooking up and having sex.
Al fresco.
Yeah, that's where I had read the quote where they said they were having all this al fresco sex, which I didn't know what that meant, but turns out that means having sex with a guy named Al Fresco. So
that's totally what it is. Don't look it up.
Don't research that. Then the other thing I wanted to read is there, if you go to the Wikipedia page for Soylent, they have like some kind of funny reviews. Like they have a reviews section, and some of the reviews are very funny. Like one person said, "My mouth tastes hot and like old cheese." And then this one guy from The Verge, he concluded that Soylent isn't living, it's merely surviving, and described the apple he ate at the end of the period as, quote, "my first meal back from the abyss."
What kind of apple was that?
But was he able to do more whacking off to World of Warcraft?
He reacted to that apple the same way I reacted to a bag of M&Ms after 3 weeks of summer camp.
I just think the idea of the product is super interesting. When you first told us about it, just the idea of somebody creating a drink that is for pure sustenance and sustainability. And not just that they would drink it, but that they would bring it to market is really interesting. And not only that, but that they would call it Soylent. That's I talked about in the intro. The only time I had heard that term was from the movie Soylent Green, and that you find out that Soylent Green is actually people, that old Charlton Heston movie. So to name a product Soylent seems insane to me.
Yeah, and apparently he actually specifically picked that name to pique curiosity, and rather than have some like sort of traditional thing like, I don't know, Nutra drink.
Right.
That is the goal, because if you look at like the nutrition facts for this bottle that we're going to taste, it's exactly 400 calories, and all the vitamins and minerals and stuff is exactly 20% of your daily recommended amount. So it's literally supposed to be just drink 5 of these and consume nothing else during the course of the day. And then last thing I wanted to say about this guy, this is my favorite story about him, was that he tried to do this other like water conservation challenge. He was going to try to consume no more than 4 liters of water in a given day. Now, 4 liters is not very much water at all. There's a couple quotes that he wrote in this blog post talking about his experience, where he says, "Given that a single toilet flush takes over 6 liters of water, some changes in my life were clearly in order. Feces are almost entirely deceased gut bacteria in water, so I massacred my gut bacteria the day before by consuming a DIY Soylent version. It worked. Throughout the challenge, I did not defecate." And then he also goes on to say, "I brushed my teeth without water and put on dry deodorant. As I mentioned, relieving myself in the toilet is not an option. Sometimes you just have to piss in the sink." That's just going too far. Like, I understand wanting to conserve water and like, yeah, don't buy a bottled water or whatever, but like, I'm not about to start pissing in the sink unless you're going to pay me for it.
This guy's a young guy too, right? Like he's in like our age or younger.
Late 20s or something.
He's already a millionaire for coming up with some dumb bullshit that he fed to a bunch of other dumb assholes.
That is Silicon Valley.
You know, I
Young
know. It's just one of those like the Snapchat guy where it's some 20-year-old is like, I want to do something that I can send dick pics, and then turns it into this social medium and sold it for millions of dollars. And you're just like, why couldn't I have done that?
Did it say diary day 2? They stuck me in a cabin with a 12-year-old named Chad. Nobody wants to room with either one of us.
Day 3, starting to get very worried about this character named Dr. Payne. Don't know where he's coming from. Don't know if it's an alter ego. Just keeps mentioning it while sharpening what looks to be a very violent cross.
So yeah, we have a rating system for this. So we're going to try this Vanilla Cafe, which supposedly has coffee flavor in it. The chocolate did not. So our rating system, based on those stories I just told you about that guy, it's a 3-point rating system. Starting at the top, we've got a shipping container. And then the middle rating is going to be first meal back from the abyss. And then the bottom rating is going to be pissing in the sink.
Makes perfect sense.
Do we want to recap how we felt about the chocolate?
I gave the chocolate a first meal back from the abyss, just right down the middle. I thought it was very chalky, but I thought it just tasted a lot like muscle milk, kind of one of those protein shakes, the ones that are a lot heavier protein content. I didn't think it was terrible. I could have drank it, but it wasn't great either. What'd you think, Geiger?
I think if I recall correctly, I was right there with you, just kind of down the middle. I thought it was going to be chocolatier, and it wasn't, but it also wasn't bad tasting. It was just kind of meh and just right down the middle.
I actually didn't hate it as much as I thought I was going to. It was okay, and like you guys said, the flavor was not particularly good. The aftertaste was a little weird. But my main problem with it is that I love chocolate milk so much, and the fact that this thing like smelled really chocolatey, but then just didn't really have very chocolate taste, kind of pissed me off. So I downgraded it all the way to pissing in the sink.
You were the only one that then finished it too, though.
I did drink the rest of it the next day for breakfast, yes.
So what was the middle one again?
First meal back from the abyss.
Okay, so sorry, I said indifferent to that. I should have said I gave it a first meal back from the abyss.
Get that straight. I'm anticipating liking this less.
Yes.
Vanilla flavored drinks are not great. I actually remember when I was a bit younger and I first tried vanilla milk. I was on a trip somewhere and I thought vanilla milk just was white milk. I just thought they were, I was younger, I thought they were calling it vanilla milk. and it was one of the worst things I've ever tried. Have you guys had vanilla milk before?
Yeah, vanilla milk is so bad. It's so bad. And I love vanilla and I love milk. But putting them together is just a fucking train wreck. I don't know why.
I don't recall doing it, but I don't think I would like it because
You can't find it around here, really, in the Midwest.
yeah, well, milk makes me shit my pants. First of all, but second of all, I don't really like the flavor of vanilla.
Getting your pants.
Well, I mean, not instantaneous. I would actually just fart a lot. But anyway, enough about me.
Let's crank this bad boy open and give it a shot.
It has a strong coffee smell, actually.
That's good for me.
That's bad for
I
me.
hope the coffee smell is like the chocolate smell, where it doesn't actually taste like coffee. We'll see.
So I think the cafe vanilla, Chad, like I think you were mentioning this, makes this seem more like it's going to be like a latte or something.
So I didn't get a lot of coffee first
Ooh.
swig, but the
Oh.
aftertaste is very coffee.
That is fucking bad. I love coffee. You're right. Like as it hit my tongue, it was fine, and then when I swallowed it, it was like this weird bitter aftertaste.
I will third that. That's when I first took a drink, I thought, well, maybe not as bad as I thought, and then I took a second one,
Oof.
and it was rough. It's hard to actually describe what it tastes like. It's almost like it almost tastes like a burnt vanilla or something. It's really kind of a.
It is. It does have like a burnt flavor. I don't know if that's like if the coffee is a flavor of just like burnt grounds. It's
Strange.
the aftertaste is horrific.
I'll lead us off here because it's an easy one. The chocolate, I would drink the chocolate one 10 times over before I would drink this one. Actually, I think I'd do a whole day of the chocolate
Yeah.
before I do one meal of this guy. I am going to easily give it a sometimes you just have to piss in the sink. What do you think, Chad?
I'm with you. I reacted to this thing the way a woodshop counselor reacts to realizing that a cross is actually a sword. Like at first I was like, oh my God. So the very first sip was okay. Not great, but okay. But then immediately that coffee flavor hit, and it's not even like a good, like I don't like coffee, but I can recognize good coffee flavor versus bad coffee flavor, I think. And this thing just tastes like absolute trash. This is bad. This is getting a piss in the sink. I'll shit in the sink. Every human orifice in the sink. That's what this one's getting.
All right.
Okay.
Someone's going to have to explain to Chad that piss is not an orifice, but that's fine. Yeah, I mean, I think I made my feelings on this pretty well known. This is fucking hot trash. This is awful. This tastes so bad. I don't like it at all. It's like dirty milk. That's the best way I can explain it. It has the weirdest aftertaste. It's literally like someone burned something and mixed it in some milk. I don't get
That's
it.
right. That's actually pretty close. Just
Tastes like someone burned some hair. Put it in milk.
just taking some kind of ashes and mixing it in with milk. That's kind of what it tastes like.
Yeah, this is just bad. Like you said, I actually thought, like we said before, the chocolate one was fine. I mean, I would do it occasionally as a meal replacement. This one is going right down the kitchen sink along with my piss.
So it might depend then on the variety of Soylent you get, but we cannot at all recommend this Cafe Vanilla. It seemed like there were a couple other. One was called the Cafe Coffeeist, I saw. And then, Chad, you tried a...
I tried their chai flavor. I'm a big chai latte and chai tea guy. And so out of morbid curiosity, I grabbed their chai flavor. And that's the best of the three for sure. Like that one actually wasn't bad to the point where when I went back to the store today to pick up the vanilla, I grabbed another chai while I was there. I don't think that's something I would drink on a regular basis, but like it was pretty good. Like I had it for breakfast one day and then I wasn't really hungry till lunch. So
all right. Well, maybe that's something you should check out then. Soylent, if you can find it, give it a shot, but do not do the Cafe Vanilla.
No.
So that'll do it. We caught ourselves up on a lost episode and got some new snacks in here. That'll close us up for today, and we will catch you next time when we will be trying 3 brand new snacks.
Deuces.
Yep.